Hello and welcome to Bot Boundaries, where we explore what it means to be human in the age of AI. If you've been browsing design or creative social media lately, you may be noticing a little shift. Real experienced creative professionals, from creative directors to interior designers, and from illustrators to fine artists, are actively pushing back on AI's slop and creative sameness. The reason a flood of slop is showing up everywhere, from social media feeds to client pitches. And at this point, it's just looking tired. So we're taking a look at how you can safeguard your brand's creative presence as AI continues to evolve. And today I'm happy to be joined by my awesome co-host, Katie Wilson. Hey there, Katie.
Good to be here. Excited to cover this topic.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's dig into what's really going on, why it matters for anyone who cares about quality creative work, and how it affects your ability to reach the right audience while protecting your brand's value. So what exactly is AI slop? We all had our fun playing with AI in 2025, but now feels like the moment to refocus on quality creative output is here. AI slop is essentially the opposite of quality. It's a term that's gained traction in marketing and creative circles to describe essentially low effort, generic content kind of churned out by artificial intelligence tools. Think of those really like smooth looking illustrations that are kind of glossy all over. They're kind of weirdly perfect lighting with sometimes odd proportions on the characters or the humans, and that distinctively glossy finish that just kind of screams, I was made by a machine. It's the visual equivalent of elevator music. Well, although to be fair, I do really enjoy a good bossa nova moment. Anyway, so this generic content is flooding Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and even professional portfolios, which is crazy. The problem isn't necessarily that it exists, but rather the sheer volume and the way it's being presented as genuine creative work, sidestepping the process of considering how the creative might actually perform, and if that creative is actually designed for the right target audience. Professional designers really think about the outcome, performance, in commercial design. That's really what we care about. It's not, we don't create things just because we love it and we're proud that we can actually create things. There's a job behind it. We have to impact revenue. So for designers who've spent years honing their craft, this feels like more than just competition by some robot or machine. It feels like a fundamental misunderstanding of what design actually is and how commercial design is integral to the success of any business or campaign.
So you're saying I can't like all those Taylor Swift singing cat videos on Instagram?
I love all the AI cats with the sparkles. I love them.
But let's talk about it. It's showing up everywhere. Even my kids now will say that's AI to like anything they see that looks unrealistic. So I'm trying to teach them like how to spot it. And I was just at back to school night last night, and there was a lot of cool uses of AI imagery for kids, like doing self-portraits, making comic books and making the cover via AI illustrations and explaining the content. So there's cool uses of it too, especially, as a mom with kids, like I want them to be creative, but I also want them to understand like there's a use case for it and when there's not. So let's talk about where it's showing up. So like I said, showing up everywhere, harder and harder to avoid. You definitely have seen it on social media. Probably the most obvious when you scroll through a design hashtag and suddenly you're looking at accounts pumping out dozens of AI images a day, usually without saying they're generated by AI. People engage with it. It's real work, which totally skews this idea of what's popular or trending when AI artwork and starts to be the norm. And then there's the portfolio problem, right? Some folks are building entire portfolios out of AI generated pieces and passing them off as their own. That makes it tough for clients to spot real talent and puts legitimate designers and illustrators in an unfair position. So I think it's really important, if you're using AI tools in your work, just say that and flag that. And we talked about this a little bit when Simon was on. If you haven't heard that episode about creative and advertising, there's some companies that are doing this on video, but they're very upfront about that they're an AI generated video company.
Yeah. Such a good example of the portfolio thing that you mentioned. One of my clients is a luxury residential architect, and there's a new competitor in town whose entire portfolio appears to be AI generated. And some of the homes they're showcasing are literally impossible to build. Like structurally impossible. Prospective clients may not even realize that, and they're getting swept up in a slick pitch instead of choosing someone who can actually design a home that's not only beautiful, but feasible and tailored to the lot that it's going to sit on, which, if it's a hilly lot, you need an architect that has that experience. And even interior designers are dealing with their own version of this. There's great AI tools that can mock up a room layout without ever even involving a designer. You can splash paint on your wall, upload that, and see how it's going to look. Those are great use cases, right? But you're not getting the nuance, especially in the luxury market, those special touches, the sourcing expertise, and those vintage pieces that are really cool. All the layered textures, all of that really makes a space feel warm, intentional, and lived in. And again, this is really important for higher end upscale luxury markets. AI just can really only generate a look, but it really can't curate a home.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And designers of all kinds are really feeling this with their clients too. So you hear creatives claiming that some people are even asking, like, why does a logo take weeks when I can do it in a minute on AI? And it just shows this like fundamental misunderstanding and mismatch of the design process. It forces designers to either defend their rates or spend time educating new clients about the values of their expertise. And it's really a communication of like, do you want a bespoke logo made by a graphic designer or someone, or do you want to create something yourself on Canva? You can do either, but you need to understand the difference, the quality, the cost of both of those things, right? It's like ordering something on Temu versus like, going to a high-end store. Like there's a vast difference between those two.
Yeah. If you can't afford it, go ahead. You can
That's
do
okay.
it.
Yeah, totally. But know the quality you're going to get. And you might have someone else in your neighborhood or on your street with the same logo because it was like the Canva template. So, stock libraries aren't immune either. They're getting flooded with AI imagery. It looks great at first, but can start to fall apart when you look closely. People have 5 fingers. It looks strange. It dilutes the quality of what's out there, and it makes it harder to find authentic, diverse visuals. This isn't just a rant anti-AI. We should be using AI. Definitely. Both Jackie and I use it all day in our businesses and build with it too. And it's a great tool for saving time. But we're asking people to like think more critically about it, especially when it comes to design and the arts specifically. And one of the core foundations of business success is really differentiation and standing out. And right now with AI, it can't differentiate enough and cut through the noise on its own. That's why you're getting very similar looking outputs and design elements. And that's where human creativity really still matters, maybe more than ever. And I'll give you the example of what I saw in my kids' school. Like they were designing the covers of their books with AI, but they didn't all look the same. And it was really cool because some were like in an anime style, some were in traditional, 50s and 60s cartoons, some were like looking hand drawn. And so like they use different language to showcase like what you can do and what matched their story best. And I thought that was cool because it showed that it wasn't just like AI isn't just one design type. And maybe it's teaching them a little bit about how to articulate in words the kind of design they want. And that can be useful.
Yeah. And again, we're not talking about children here, even though we're referring to children. We're talking about for your business success, to differentiate in a crowded market. Everything's highly competitive. And that's why we're talking about it, right?
Yeah. And I think like that's the good example of Canva. Like if you go on and you're a local business, you might have the same logo as someone else because you just searched like, terms or looking at what the most popular are. And that's where, if you really understand your business and want to differentiate it, you might have to pay for that bespoke logo, but it might have more, resonance in the long term for your business and be worth that extra cost to make something that's going to be, very long lasting and not trendy.
Yeah, correct. And, that just brings up a quality problem for certain audiences, right? Like you just said, Katie, human creativity does still matter. And it has a big impact on quality. So this is where it gets interesting. AI slop sometimes can just look good enough, right?
Yeah.
And at thumbnail size or at a quick glance, it's only when you actually look closely that you notice the problems, the repeat patterns, the anatomical impossibilities, the lack of genuine emotion in faces, the lighting that doesn't quite make sense. So this creates a race to the bottom sometimes in visual standards. Again, in the business world is what I'm referring to. And when good enough becomes the norm, which is not good enough for any business, by the way, you should really strive to be the best. So we collectively just start to lose our eye for quality, and we stop noticing the craftsmanship, the subtle details, and the thoughtful choices that make truly great design memorable. And that's the other thing, right? Differentiation, Being memorable is really important in business marketing and brand identity. So for experienced designers, this is frustrating because they can see the difference immediately. They notice the lack of hierarchy, the poor typography choices, the composition that doesn't guide the eye intentionally. Like everything is kind of equal importance without a focal point. But explaining these subtleties sometimes, can just look like a pretty picture, and it's kind of an uphill battle at times. And it's a waste of time, really, when we're just churning these out. But on the other hand, AI generated photos or videos can absolutely boost reach and impressions. And for a newer marketer or creative, that quick spike can feel great and it can be a real ego boost. But some argue that those are vanity metrics and they don't tell you whether the creative is actually strengthening your brand or attracting the right customers. What really matters are the performance indicators tied to quality and intent. Things like engagement quality, audience relevance, click-through rate, conversion rate, and ultimately, what matters most is customer lifetime value and someone coming back and repeating purchases. And that's where sloppy or generic AI content really starts to fall apart. For example, low-effort AI visuals might work fine for a low-consideration product, right? You're selling a cheap razor, it's an off brand. That audience is price driven, impulse driven, and not expecting, a luxury brand experience. But if you're selling a premium product to a woman with refined taste, that same quick, and sloppy AI creative can actually hurt you most likely. Sure, you might reach a ton of people, right? Those ego boosting metrics on social media, but reaching everyone in those types of products really isn't the goal. Reaching the right people is the goal. So those high value customers, the ones who buy, come back and tell their friends, are much harder to attract with generic AI content that doesn't match their taste level or expectations. That's where thoughtful human-led creative still outperforms every time. Now, again, there is a place for the slop aesthetic. There really is. So some brands have an audience that actually responds to shock value. And because the price point may be so low, the conversion path is pretty quick. In those cases, slop performs just fine. And there are a few of those out there.
Yeah, we've talked about scenarios where it makes sense. We had some examples on our previous episode with Simon, so listen for that. And also like where it's over the top, like with animals or things that you can't get a panda skateboarding, right? But you could do that with like an AI video, right? I always go back to that one.
Yeah, we like animals for some reason.
Yeah, I do. But the price point might be low, the conversion path is quick. In those cases, the slop performs just fine, or like quick and dirty. Like we want to reply to the Super Bowl ad, or we want to reply to something super topical. And we want to just knock something out just for social. I think that's fine. And we talked about the difference of like a social output versus like a national TV campaign. And like there's a time and a place for all of it.
Yeah, so true. I mean, that slop aesthetic isn't necessarily the work I do, at least at the moment anyway, with AI. And it's not really what the creatives I really work alongside or admire are doing either. They have an innate sense of taste, and that's part of their value that they bring to the table, to their teams, to their clients, and whoever they're working alongside. We're really focused on thoughtful design that aligns with brand equity, audience expectations, and long-term positioning. We're all using AI, but we implement it strategically in the parts of the workflow where it makes sense without compromising quality. Ideally, in most cases, at least what I work on, you shouldn't be able to tell if or where AI was used, because the final output still feels cohesive and inspired by something humans just naturally resonate with in their real life or in an aspirational life that's still rooted in reality.
Yeah, really good point. So we look ahead, the creative community's pushback isn't really about shutting down AI or pretending it doesn't have value. Most designers, especially the ones working with big brands and complex systems, fully admit that AI is incredibly useful for certain parts of the process: ideation, early mock-ups, color exploration, repetitive production work. AI can speed all of that up really well. And just to be clear, we're not encouraging not using AI for experimentation, curiosity, putting things out there before they're perfect. This is all really good uses of it. But that's really not the conversation we're having today. We're really speaking to professionals, brands, and business owners who have to compete in the market. So at the end of the day, many creatives are looking for that recognition, the human creativity, the strategy, and the real artistic and skills that matter, that are core to their work. They want clients and the public to be able to tell the difference between AI generated content and something really truly crafted by a human. They want transparency. They want their expertise respected, and they want creative standards to remain high. So a lot of it is really about the education of what is and isn't AI and the benefits of non-AI work and bespoke work. And a lot of designers are responding by leaning in even harder into the things that AI can't replicate. So that could be deep client relationships, cultural nuance and understanding, strategic brand building, highly personalized creative solutions. And I'll also add things that are brand safe, right? Every brand has their own values and guidelines, and AI can't understand that, even if you pump it through with like a brand safety document. And at the end of the day, keeping humans in the loop, which we often go back to in this podcast, is what leads to the strongest outcomes here. AI can accelerate the work, but it's really that human touch and innate affinity for their taste that gives it meaning. And you can't really replicate taste in AI, which we talk about quite a bit when we talk about creative.
Yeah, I totally agree, Katie, on so many levels. So yeah, thank you for that. So now let's have some fun and get into things too honest for LinkedIn. So first up, Meta is finally saying goodbye to the Metaverse. Apparently spending $73 billion on a virtual world that no one wanted to visit wasn't the winning strategy they hoped for. Katie, what do you think? Could that cash have been better spent on, I don't know, literally anything else?
Literally anything. I mean, honestly, I hate the metaverse, always have. I always felt it was like Mark Zuckerberg's like pet project, like weird dream.
Very
and, like,
expensive one.
yeah, that he like put all this money towards this idea and the glasses and everything. And there's a gaming component that where metaverse can be useful, I think, and interesting, but that's such a small percentage of like the total business impact Meta can have and their total like customer base, that it was always bizarre to me that they were throwing so much engineering power where, coming from the ad side, throw that into advertising and you're going to have a better ROI than building some weird metaverse that no one wants to go to. And don't even get me started on ads in the metaverse or like fake people. What are we doing? Like, so I just think like business critical things like, advertising, retaining employees, hiring people that are going to build, better targeting and better tools for Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp and your core products. And let's leave the metaverse behind. I have no interest in stepping foot into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that Meta needs to improve on their back end. Holy crap. I mean, I've been doing ads since like 2011 in that platform. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still room for improvement. Sometimes I think that, did he develop it because he's so detached from the consumer at this point, right?
That's really interesting.
They say that he just sits in his compound to compound. No, he's not out in the public anymore. So he thinks everybody just wants to sit in their own fake universe. Maybe that was it. So anyway, side note, I guess they're technically not totally shutting it down. I don't have the exact details, but it'll just be on mobile now. And they're saying that there's a greater opportunity for Horizon Worlds on mobile than on the Quest headset. I don't even know what Horizon Worlds is.
And again, I think it's gaming, right? It's like, there's a place for it, but it's not a core business, pillar that they're going to make a lot of money off of.
Yeah. All right. Well, so shutting it down, but they're keeping it somewhere on mobile.
Yep. Bottom line, Mark Zuckerberg needs to go touch grass. Get out of the house.
Definitely.
Take off the headset. Let's get in the real world.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good thing for everyone. Okay. So up next, this got a lot of views. CEOs testing their products and sharing it on social media, which in theory, I think is a cool idea. And definitely some young person in their social department is telling them to do it, but it can go bad. Like when McDonald's CEO, Chris Kapensky, that's a hard name, took a big bite of a McDonald's burger on camera. You can see it. It's uploaded on all the feeds. People described it as a tentative chomp, like very tiny bite, like not loving it. Okay. And so it drawn plenty of criticism online, even from competitors. Now people are making fun of it and making their own videos, which I love. And it's definitely become a thing. So how do you feel about CEOs leaning into performative moments like this on social?
So I think the word tested and the word product were a total messaging fail. It felt obvious he never eats McDonald's.
Yes.
And I will give him that the last 25% of the video, it started to feel a little bit more of an authentic performance. But the intro in the first half just had me saying, oh my gosh, to myself over and over as I watched it. So I'm a total fan of humanizing a brand, but
Totally.
maybe a better director could have brought out a better performance from this particular CEO. And approachable is the key word here. So the next time any of you shoot a CEO, any of you social media managers, approachable is the tone we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think like there's this mismatch of expectations. Like CEOs are not performers, they're not creators, right? Some are.
Yes, some
There
are.
are some CEOs or founders like for products that have made them themselves and are the face of the company. Great. They can be out there on social. When you're talking about a giant corporation, those CEOs are there for their business acumen and honestly, like sometimes just years in the business. They are not performers. They are not like going to be great in front of camera generally. You got to coach them. And even do you
Definitely.
want that person? Or like, I want to see like their head of social media maybe taking a bite of McDonald's burger. Let's get a 20-year-old in there or something,
Yes.
like a younger person who can relate to the audience. It's not a bad idea.
Right.
Like we go back to like the blind cola tests and everything, even before, social media, that was a really fun, like commercial, but they went to everyday people. They didn't go to the CEO of Pepsi and Cola. Like it's just not going to work if they don't have the personality to do it. But yeah, and I'm all about fast food companies do this. I'd love to see a Taco Bell one. I'm a big fan. And Taco Bell, feel free to send me. I'll do one for free.
You would do so good.
But like the Taco Bell one's funny. And I think they're a good one where their company has more of an edge and a voice that is funny.
Yeah,
And like
you're right.
they don't put their CEO out there. And that's okay. Like, because that's not their voice.
They might have a better
mismatch.
marketing team. I mean,
Totally.
honestly, like marketing teams and social media teams really need to use some discernment and not just jump on trends for trends' sake.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're talking about even with AI. It's like just because you can do it or it's a trend, like it doesn't mean you should do it. Or you can do the trend with a different person, right?
Totally. And the person has to fit. And like, people can only be coached so much. And like
Yes.
the awkwardness of it is fun. Like there's the cringe factor of like, oh, this will get social pickup. But then you're throwing your brand kind of under the bus. Like McDonald's is a very like all American, I'm loving it, like brand. And that didn't
super
fit.
approachable.
Yeah. And now people are just like kind of crapping on them. So it wasn't what they wanted. I know. So like, you got to really think through, what are you putting out there? And if it isn't a good video, don't post it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so I just saw that Costco kind of did a clap back with their own CEO. His was good. And they just like followed him around grabbing a hot
Okay.
dog. And I think it was
Get a
pretty
hot
good.
dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll have to look at it.
Okay, I will. And I'm going to search for a Taco Bell one because they definitely should do a clap back of some kind. It would be hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty good. All right, well, cool. So let's zoom out for a second. And AI is really an incredible tool, right? Useful and so efficient. But before you start seeing dips in performance because of AI slop, it's worth being proactive and checking in with the human creatives around you. They can help you spot where quality is slipping long before the metrics do. We all win when we stay rooted in human judgment and use these new tools thoughtfully. If we steer them together, we can make sure they move in a direction that benefits all of us and our businesses too. So good seeing you today, Katie. As always, just a reminder, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn under Katie Wilson and Serious Moonlight Consulting and on Instagram at Serious Moonlight Consulting. Now, how about you, Jackie?
Yeah, you can find me at Jackie Gutierrez on LinkedIn and on Instagram and TikTok at Business Growth Gal, and follow Bot Boundaries on at Bot Boundaries on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and on LinkedIn too. So thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on all platforms and also YouTube. Good seeing you, Katie.
See you. Bye.